Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the live stream. So sorry I'm late. We got started a few minutes late. The end of this week, I am dog sitting, pet sitting for some friends, and so was there going through the routine and learning all the things that need to be done for that. But ran back home real quick. Fortunately, in a small town, it's a quick drive. It's about 90-second drive, so got back here to start the live stream a little bit late, but excited for those of you that have joined us. Hey, Lola. It is so good to see you. I wondered if you might catch it. I posted on my Instagram stories just in case, so you would see it if you weren't if you didn't see the notification. But glad to see you and excited to get started. I'm just running in, as I said, so I guess I need to kind of get ready to go. Tonight, I'm excited to do, I had mentioned before I went back to Omaha last week, we were off last week because of, we were out of town, but I am planning the next week or so to do, or the next couple of weeks to do holiday themed paintings. So that's what we're doing tonight, holiday themed paintings. I've been painting a holiday themed painting in my studio here over the last week or two. But it's a surprise for a gift, so I won't show you that. But I am excited to do some holiday paintings. Last week, if you remember, we did the, where is it? Oh, we did the evergreen and, oh, you can't see in that light. There it is. You can see the evergreen and the pine cones. So it's kind of a winter scene, not so much holiday. Today's going to be more holiday. So we will get that started. Let me put up the overlay so you can see what we're working on. This is what we're going to try to do. A few weeks ago, I bought these canvases that are pre-treated. They're black canvases. So I'm actually going to experiment on one of these canvases. So I'll talk you through my thought process. I've thought through this a little bit. And there's a reason I'm doing it on the dark, and I just want to see how it'll work. So we're going to kind of see how this works with a pre-treated black canvas. But yeah, let's get started. So the first thing I want to do when I am thinking about this painting is the lights, the focus of the light. I really want to be that kind of third light up that's most in focus. The others, I want to even exaggerate the blur even more so they're in the shadows, which is one of the reasons I chose the black canvas. So that's what we're going to try to do. We're going to try to make that third lantern the focus. And the challenge, I think, for this, at least at first, because of the black background, is the defining of the object is going to be almost kind of an outline or a profile of the item where the light hits, because the darker background of the canvas will automatically give dimension to anything that we put some outline to. So that's kind of as far as I've thought through it, but we will experiment with this a little bit and see how far we get. So let's check it out, or let's get started. I'm going to bring my stool in. Oops. Then I'm going to bring you all a little bit closer if you want to come right in here so you can see. Hello, Heather. I see your comment. Good to see you. Glad you popped in. All right. And apparently there are some of you who lurk. I had a friend this past week who mentioned something about my live stream every week, and I had no clue they watched it or had dialed in at all or logged in at all. So glad to have you. If you're not following on YouTube, you can definitely do that. I do obviously on Facebook for personal friends, but YouTube is the public place as well as Twitch. So you are welcome to catch the live stream there. Hey, Marta, so good to see you. Have been enjoying your escapades. You've been doing some last minute end of the year traveling, looks like. That has been fun to watch. Hope things are going well. I am missing Arkansas this time of year as it gets colder and colder here, and you guys have more moderate. Although it was 50 today, my dad and I went out and cut a Christmas tree for his house in the National Forest. You can buy a tag to cut Christmas tree, and we did that today, and it was perfect day. 50s. 50 here is a lot different than 50 in Little Rock, let me tell you. So, all right. So what we want to do actually is, and I'm kind of, let me put I'm just putting some browns and white on the palette. I want to kind of start defining some of the composition. So we just want to lay in some of these things. So that's what I'm doing right now, is just mixing a little bit of this brown. We'll just go in and put values in again. We're looking for our darkest darks and our lightest lights. So I think we want, let me just kind of start putting in some basic structures. See, and we can kind of see how our composition will develop from there. Again, I want these, but this will all be in shadows. A lot of this will be in shadows. So I'm doing very little detail over here just because I care, but not too much. We can kind of get a real idea quick. Took a stroll through your old neighborhood today and thought of you. It was a gorgeous day. Oh, that's great. Yeah, it was a great neighborhood. I really loved living in that area, being so close to downtown. All right. I don't know how to do these. I want to use the others for kind of a, like the background as a very, very, just basically a context. So I'm not sure exactly how to do that, but we'll draw some of these. Let's see. The ribbon will be there. We'll put some of these lines in for context. We'll see if we can get them. The next stage, once I kind of get the rough composition. Now, you may notice that I'm doing this a little bit different than I normally do. Normally, I go in and try to do values first, so darks and lights. But today, I'm actually drawing in some basic structure and the composition, and I'm not sure how that's all gonna play out, but we'll kind of work on that. Let's see. Now I think what we need to do is come in and start defining some lights and darks. So let me mix a little bit lighter. Then I'm going to put some darks, not doing any color or any, the feeling I want to evoke with this painting is very, I want a feeling of kind of Dickens feeling to this picture or this painting. I want it to feel like it came right out of A Christmas Carol or something. So we'll see how effective I can be at that, at creating that. But that's what I'm going for. And so I think I'm going to do that. We'll be able to do that best by getting really dramatic darks and lights. So this will be just really into the shadow and it's really drawn there. And so we're going to have to get really clear about our values and that kind of thing. But I think it's going to force me to be a little more precise, which is going to be a good thing. Now, when we go into the shadows, what we have to look at, or what I usually try to do, is the light. So the dark parts of this would actually be the highlights there. So let's take these, kind of this mid-tone color, and make that the highlights on this. And we don't want to do too much detail. We just want a little bit. I think still that's too bright, isn't it? So which is fine. We can always, this is just the beginning. We'll just see how this is a darker tone. That's like the mid-tones here, but it's actually the highlights back here. Then that helps your drawing recede into the background. Oh, that came forward too much. So we just need to mix a little dark. Take that down some. But we'll keep playing with this layout. Then the further back we go, the more they get. And we'll just keep adjusting this. Using the original photo as a guide. Dark canvases have always been a little intimidating. Oh, interesting. I've never really thought of using dark canvases, but I bought them because I wanted to experiment. And so when I started to imagine what this painting could be, I really started thinking, oh, let me kind of play on this and see what I can do. So I'm really curious what what ends up happening. We'll see. I'm not sure how to reflect this, but I want that filament in the middle to be kind of I want that to be a very, an emphatic element. So not sure how to do all that, but we'll see. I'm lightening up everything. Yeah, that's the goal, is to kind of use some of these values to get the values almost right, and then it'll be much easier to dial in any color. And I'll get more specific as we go, obviously. This is way too bright. And my brush, the brush I'm using is kind of a, it's a dagger brush, but it is not too, it's not too precise, because it's dagger part of it is not quite. So I'm focusing on trying to get some shapes, the shape correct. So we'll adjust that as we go. It's very bright. So the values right now are pretty out of balance, but I'm going to come in some more dark shades. I have a little, this was a burnt umber, and this is the raw umber, so we'll bring in some of this darker colors and start to see if we can lay in some. Yeah, these we just won't hardly do at all. I mean, very little detail on these. Just to show there's something there. That's about it. I wonder if I... Yeah, that's a little more accurate to what I'm actually looking at. So you can kind of see, obviously this one's way out of balance, but we can adjust that. We can darken it, but you can start to see kind of the values I'm looking at. Okay, now let's go back and really think about what we're seeing in regards to shadow and light, or what we want to see. This painting is going to vary significantly from the reference. So that's where I really have to decide, okay, what do I want? Where do I want some dark, where are the darkest shadows? And how do I render that? So I'll mix some of this ultramarine blue with the raw umber to give us kind of that dark, almost black. Now, because the background is black, anytime we're using this fabricated dark color, we're going to have to come in on top of something that's lighter than it is. Otherwise, it just won't make sense. So we're going to come in a little bit in here, put some suggestions of shape in, put shadow, but you can see it just almost blends right in. You really can't see what I am painting there. Oh, you can see a little bit there, but it's a lot of shadow. Want a lot of that in the shadow. And we want it to kind of disappear into the canvas. So that's what we're going to try to do. I'm not sure how exactly that's going to work, but we're going to do it. Then I think if we take some of the highlights from here, kind of make that, oh, that's going to be too bright, but make that kind of the, I think it needs to be a little darker. A lot of this is experimentation because, yeah, I just don't know what I'm doing. But you all know how this goes. That's what we do, right? Let's experiment and try something and then see how it renders, what it looks like. It's not only what's light, but what is around it that makes something render differently. You know, what is the color around something? If you bring in some light, it always looks lighter if it's next to something dark. So you don't need as much. And a lot of times you just need the suggestion of the shape. It's always amazing to me how little you actually have to paint to make something look like it fits. Over here, I'm just starting to lay in a foundation for the ribbon of the gold, and then I'll wrap the red around it. Some of the reflection in here. We'll see how that turns out, but then what I'm going to do is dull down some of that gold and this is a test. It may still be too bright, but I brought in some blue and some dark brown. And let's bring it over here and see if, oh, that's really too bright. Yeah, it is. Even adding or making it dark, it's still too bright because of what's around it. Because I still want this to be seen, but I don't want it to draw attention. So by adding the blue, now that's a little too blue. We push this into shadow. And then what we put around it will look gold. So yeah, that should help us shadow this. Welcome to those of you that have joined in the last few minutes. I see several of you. I don't see you, but I see that you're there. Thanks for joining. So glad you have. All right. And let's come over here and do the same thing. Whoop. Ooh, that's a bright, bright, bright. Didn't get mixed. So let's see if we can just take that off of there. Oh, we're just making marks everywhere. So yeah, I think this kind of bluish, it's going to be good for the shadow, for communicating shadow. Here again, we want even less detail. And that's really bright compared to the others, so we'll have to take it back into the shadows even more. Again, I'm spending a significant amount of time, about 30 minutes so far, jotting this out or drafting this out and then trying to get these colors or not colors, but the values somewhat correct. What I'm really looking for, though, is the relationship to all of these in a row, because I am having to, like, I am creating this in my head. I mean, obviously I have the reference, but I am designing this how I want it to appear out of my head. And so that's the big challenge. Let me come in and see what I can do with just some shadow. No chroma. No chroma meaning color. But just shadow. How can I make the idea of this start to appear? The idea of this ribbon, I don't know if I can, but we shall try. And we'll add some shadow around here, and all of a sudden we should see forms start to bounce out. Will almost be like a monochromatic. Now I'm coloring back some of this shadow into the glass because I want that light in there. Actually, this was taken during daytime, but I really want to create I want that light to stand out. I want it to appear like this is nighttime, or at least a time when the light is visible. So I want that flame, and I'm not sure how I'm actually going to do it. I'm hoping to kind of walk myself into it. But yeah, I can. We'll see. And we're starting to see form a little bit there, aren't we? There's some form coming in. Little by little. We'll just keep experimenting and see what we can create. And I think the longer I hold off with adding color, the better we're going to be in this regard. That's really blue. Let's take that. All right. It's a fun exercise to play with these different, you're doing exactly the same technique basically, but figuring out, okay, what's lighter compared to something else and what's darker compared to something else, and how do you adjust that so that it's in balance. Okay, so I'm creating some gray intentionally. Let me see if it's too bright. I want to bring some gray into here, into there. That's pretty bright gray. But it starts to give a feeling that you just do a few lines and all of a sudden you have a shape. But they're still kind of in the shadows, because the more detailed and brighter I get here, the more I hold on to my There's just over here, just a few strokes of, notice how the lines, it's just like, if I bring it up close, this is just like, there's really no shape there. It's just lights and shadows and a few like downward strokes and a few cross strokes. I didn't really draw anything other than the shadows. And here I put a little more, so there's more. And then here even more, so you get more shape as you go. And this is a really useful way of painting. Somebody the other day, I was talking to some friends playing a virtual game where you had to draw, like kind of a Pictionary type thing. And they were saying, "Oh, you're going to be so good at this." And I said, "No, like I am not like a particularly gifted art like drawer. Like I'm not good at drawing figures, or I'm not an illustrator, at least right now. Those aren't the skills that I have developed." And so the assumption is, oh, you can make, you can do art, so you're like, you can paint, so you must be able to draw. And it's like, no, not really. I can communicate light and shadow sometimes, and I just adjust constantly, and all of a sudden, things appear. But it's learning that balance of trying different things. Figuring out what works, what doesn't. Mixed a little bit of this yellow over here into here, and it's starting to come together. This really is a fun one for me personally, as a painter. This is a fun exercise. These types of things, you learn so much because you start to really understand what mark making is effective and what mark making is not effective. You start to understand, because you really have to look at the shapes much more consciously, and that's really valuable. So anyway, that may be more, y'all may not care so much. You're like, just paint the picture. We're getting there. We are getting there. Hey, Bob G, good to see you. Welcome, welcome to the club. So glad you popped in. Can't wait to chat with you soon. And as I go here, I will begin refining these shapes so that they're more indicative of the actual shape of the lantern. I agree, Marta. All the OGs are in the room. Did you all realize or notice this is episode 48? So we are almost to a year of live streams. I remember when I started this in my little back bedroom in Little Rock, I didn't think anybody would show up, and then I think Lola showed up, and little by little people started showing up, and now you guys come out almost every week. It's shocking to me that this is that that interesting that people will want to sit and watch somebody stumble through a painting, but I guess Bob Ross did it, but he kind of knew what he was doing, so that helped. And he painted every painting, they said 3 or 4 times to get the for all the different shots they needed. So I don't do that. I just do it live, which I think there's some advantage to this kind of medium as well. It's not produced, although they said Bob Ross used to do it with basically no or very little editing. Like he just went straight through, and what you saw on the thing was his he painted, and when it was half an hour he was done, which is really remarkable when people kind of poo-poo Bob Ross and his style of painting. For what he was doing with the medium he was doing it in, it was remarkable. Really kind of brilliant, so in my opinion. Ooh, I hear the eaves creaking and the wind howling. We're getting like wind advisories the next few days. It's still going to be 50 tomorrow, so it'll be nicer, but it's getting wintry. Although the weather doesn't seem very wintry heading into the week or two before Christmas. 50 degrees is a great. We'll be down in the 30s, 40s, and 30s by Christmas, it looks like. Excuse me, so it'll be chilly. I don't know that we're going to get much snow unless, of course, in the mountains, anything can change. So, hey, Michael, good to see you. Yep, Bob Ross was kind of the man. He did something fascinating with oils that is really, people paint in his style, but painting that kind of, I think it's called alla prima, but basically wet paint on wet paint is very difficult to do with oils or any paint. Like painting wet on wet is difficult, but he did it. And okay, so you can kind of see we're starting to get some shape. Now I want to come in and create some. I brought up this kind of the framework of the context behind, but I kind of want to put some dark lines in because I want that to merge into the background. I want the main thing to really be this. So what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to start introducing some chroma, some color. But I think I am going to do the green first, which is in the very far background, and it's not going to be very detailed at all. So we will just keep doing what we're doing, but we'll bring a little green just so there's a green tone to this, but we'll darken it so it's almost imperceptible. Because if we bring too much chroma, too much of the contrast, all of a sudden, if you put some greenery in there, that's where the eye is going to go, which we don't want. We want really the brightest colors and the most detail there. So this may still be too bright a green, but I've darkened it and I've taken a lot of that out with the brown. You take that green out with kind of the red tones in the brown. Remember, we're opposite color wheels, so red and green are going to desaturate each other. And so if something's too red, you add a little green. If it's too green, you add a little red, and it kind of neutralizes, for lack of a better term. So we'll put some hint of greenery up in the eaves of these windows, but we're not going to do much more than that. Just kind of framing in a little bit. We might put some over here even though it doesn't exist, just to make the painting kind of... So I'm just putting marks. Now it's looking much more precise. So let me turn this off, see. Okay, there you can see kind of what I'm looking at. You can barely see the green. It doesn't, when I turn on the light, it catches the glare of the light. So I wonder, now it's still, yeah, it just catches glare of the light. I wonder, let me see. That's too blue. Oh, that's kind of nice, sort of. But yeah, anyway, so putting a little green in there. We may have to dull it down. But that gives us kind of an idea. Okay. Now let's take some, we're going to need some red in here. And we'll go red. Oops. We'll mix it right in with the green. Again, desaturating the red. See how that desaturates that when it blends together? You see the brighter red out here, and then it's kind of a muddy, dirty, purplish, brownish red. But that's what we want for our color, the ribbon over here. That's what's going to make it look in the shadow. Of course, when we look at the picture, we see, our eyes see it as red, and a photograph is always going to capture it as that. But if I go put red onto this, all of a sudden there's going to be no distance. But if we do just some little hints of red, then all of a sudden we have ribbon in the shadows. See there? It may still be lighter, but also acrylic will dry darker. So anything we put on here is probably not going to be... And what we'll do is we'll just put a bunch of like just strokes, but then when we bring it to the foreground, we'll put more detail, and so then our eye will see all of that as detail in the background. Even though we don't put the detail in, our eye will interpret that as detail. But we'll do it very carefully up here. And I'm just suggesting with my brush strokes the ribbon, that there's ribbon out there in the distance. Notice the difference between the pure out of the tube red, which is actually what the color's there, and this red. Notice that this red that's on my palette that's all muddy and mixed, when I put it up here into this context, it looks like it's bright red out of the tube, but it's not at all. It's still very muddy, which is bizarre to me. Not bizarre, but it's fascinating to me how our eyes see different things than are actually there. Because now it looks super bright. Me too, Marta. The red makes me happy. Yeah. That's, I mean, there's so little color on this that the hero of this painting is going to be the bright red and in the foreground, and as I get into more detail on the lantern. Yeah, that's going to definitely be the hero. So let me take some of this. Let me see if I can begin to put in shadow on the red. Wonder if I can add some brown to this to make it not so translucent. Oops, that was a lot of paint. Well, oops. Don't want to bring that forward too much. All right. Now I'm taking some of that gold into the brown to create a gold tinted shadow color. That will, I hope, allow us to create some, oops, nope, it's still too bright. Or it's too wet, maybe. Yeah, I'll have to come back and doctor that. All right. Let me keep adjusting this. adding a little highlight there. It looks like white, but if I turn that off, you start to see a ribbon. And I actually like, when I turn that off, I like that color for the flame. So let me kind of indicate a flame. It looks like there's a flame in there now. I like that because I want it to look like it's lit. But that's going to have to be the brightest spot in the whole painting when we're done. So that's almost going to have to be a, like, we're going to have to actually paint it really bright. But then I have to keep the colors around it relatively dark. There, see how it looks like it's lit? That's kind of cool, huh? But I'm going to have to tone everything around that. Nothing else can be brighter than that, if that's where we want the eye to go. So I'm going to have to okay. I think that's a good color to come back in here and cover this up. This is exciting in my growth as a painter because the last several paintings, like now I'm kind of coming to a stage. The first stage was straight do tutorials on YouTube, copy exactly what someone else is doing. Literally, I was pausing videos to try to follow exactly what painters were doing. Then I started painting some of not my own things, but things that weren't tutorials. I was using reference photos like I'm using now, but I was still trying to make it as true to life, like I was trying to literally paint the picture, paint what I saw exactly, which in a sense in some regard I still am. But now I'm really trying to push myself with the pine needle painting. A few weeks ago, we did that kind of ram's skull painting. I'm really trying to force myself to paint and think. So I am trying to use the reference truly as a reference, and then come in and say, okay, what do I want this painting to be? What's the feeling I want to evoke when someone sees the painting? And like I said, this time I wanted something kind of very Dickens about it. Like I wanted that feel of like you're walking through like 18th century, early 19th century London, and like you see the gas lanterns. Like that's what I want the feel to be with this painting. And so actually trying to, I realized I have something off here. And that is that these, I made them kind of like a almost like the rotunda of a capitol, but they're actually, you know, there is some fine detail work, and they are actually, this is shaped, comes down to a, I don't know if I can actually take that away though. We'll try. I want it to be, want it, or the appearance of two separate, meaning I want the narrowing of the neck there. So I think I gotta take probably that whole section kind of out, or I'm gonna try that at least. We may have to do something else because that's not gonna be exactly the background. But we'll go in and put some of this detail back in. I may be ruining the whole thing, but I don't think so. Or not to the point where we can't fix it. And that's one thing also, as I've progressed on this journey, I have a lot more confidence in my ability to fix things. May mean repainting the whole thing over or a whole section over, but I have a lot more confidence in that ability over as, or I've gained a lot more confidence in that. Okay, now I'm on the lower portion. What I'm going to try to do is see if I can actually take a detail brush and come in and draw in the shape I want by placing appropriate shadows. So mix some of this at the top of the palette. It's kind of off where you all can see. Let me mixing just a very dark color. Okay. Oh, all right. So now that's not quite working the way I want. Don't think the brush is fine enough, but it might get a little bit. We might kind of get there. Every step, it's getting closer, little by little. See what we did here around this wall brace by drawing the shadow places we want around it. All of a sudden the form comes out. And now those highlights actually are starting to look like shimmers of gold, aren't they? I, like always, someday I'm going to have like an assistant that will remind me or will take progress photos. I always forget. And I know I can go back to the live stream and freeze frame them, but it's not quite the same. Because I like to get several times along the way so you can kind of see it progressing, but oh well. Such is life. Okay, let's see if we can refine this even more. There's a line that comes across there, and there's some shadow there. Wonder. Okay. Sounds like a paint-a-thon meetup extravaganza in the making with a film crew. Well, that would be fun, wouldn't it? I wouldn't throw that idea out, baby with bathwater. Hey there, Henry. So good to see you. Well, you can turn down my volume and watch The Voice and kind of glance out of the corner of your eye at what I'm doing. Sounds like a great way to spend the evening. See if we can shape this up a little bit. But that's kind of what I was wanting to do earlier is refine some of this, the shape of this top of this lantern. I don't know if that's exactly working like I want it to, but we're getting there. Love the subject matter and time for. That's exactly the plan, Henry. Over the next week or two, couple of weeks, is do holiday themed paintings. So great eye or great observation, I guess. And then the rest of these, I'm just going to give a suggestion of plates. There, we're starting to see it come together. Oh, and the light looks like it's glowing in the nighttime, doesn't it? That's cool, huh? Let me take a think now. I'm gonna try to take another photo. I think in some regard, this is probably one of the most ambitious paintings I've taken on, in the sense that I'm turning it from day to night. And I cropped the reference photo. Where is it? Up. Where's my finger? Up there. I cropped the reference photo to fit how I wanted, because it was much broader, but I cropped it so I could kind of visualize how I wanted it to be. But yeah, this is, like I said, it's, I think, one of the most ambitious paintings I've taken on, for sure. Not sure how to indicate this brass kind of. Might have to tweak this. We may be tweaking this for a while, because it looks like that's leaning over and it kind of looks weird. So, not sure how that's going to work. So I'm taking a similar value, the lighter value, but on the right-hand side of these images, I'm adding more of the brown and the gold so that it's a warmer. So the cooler is on this side and then some warmer values on this side. Let's see if that helps at all. Might be too much. I think it's too much. Gotta tone it down a little bit. But I think the idea is not bad. That's not quite having the effect I want. But little by little, I think I'll have to come in and add some more shadow and just keep playing with that, I think. Not sure. Not sure. It's that constant back and forth. Now, I think I'm going to go back before we wrap up this evening. I'm gonna kind of stop there and quit overthinking that. Then I'm gonna come back to this red. So we're gonna mix a little red and a little of the blue, a little of the green, because we can always brighten it up. But we want to move that intensity of that chroma in correlation to everything else. So in reference to everything else, let's put the brightest reds so far along the edges of this ribbon. Down here we need big bright red. Then we'll take a little bit of that, whoops, too watery. Mix in the purple. It's a little too red. Bring in some green. Till we get kind of what we want. Okay, that's a pretty dark purple, so that might be. Giving some more love to the red. Oh, look at that. That kind of looks cool when the light's off. Okay. Now what I need to do is come in with some more dark, almost black. I need to come in around this. Give us more of our, carve even more of our shape out. All right. I'm starting to get where I really am liking what's happening with this. I've spent almost all the time on that center lantern, but that's exactly, I want it to be the focus, and so I want as much detail as possible around that, around this lantern. So still looks like the top of this thing is tilting, so we'll paint that out and then paint it back in, I think. But it's getting there. See it kind of, even when you look at it straight, it looks even more like it's tilting off its axis. I like this. I don't like this. So, well, and what's even worse is this appears to be slanting this way, and then this appears to be slanting this way. So, gotta fix that. But I like what's happening with the bow there, the ribbon, and the gold. Gold is hard to paint. So little by little. Crazy thing is, it's surprising what you don't actually paint gold, you paint what's around the gold. So yeah, let's see. We'll just kind of blot that out, and I'll come back to it in a different session, but I'll make sure to show you all once I get it completed. I guess this is a good time. I always do it at the end, but this is a good time to pitch Instagram. If you're not following me there on Instagram, please do, because I will post the final. I usually wait till I'm done with a painting to post the final pictures of it. So and that's what I try to get these progress photos for. Actually, I was gonna, I think I can. We'll end up, well, maybe I should do that. Because the background was already black, I didn't really do a background, or it was easier to do background, but I think I need to, here at the end, kind of, while I'm doing the same, kind of come in and do, oh, that's really bright blue, huh? Let's take some more brown into that. Now it's probably going to be too brown. Can't win. That's all right. Kind of do a background. We'll be adding just kind of give this a dark. I'll do several layers of this eventually. The dark color so that it is really dark around the edges, especially in the, want to bring the shadows in. We definitely want to bring our shadows in. They help define the other spaces. So yeah, we'll bring the darkness in around those. But overall, I'm really pleased with how this is turning out. I appreciate you all hanging with me for popping in when I was late and hanging with me for these almost 2 hours. It's a great time to say that I hope your year is winding down well and life is treating you kindly as we head into the end of the year. I look forward to what we'll do in the coming year. I'm going to move y'all back here. What we will accomplish together. I'm really excited to continue to explore the. Let me get this out of the way so it's not over my face. I'm excited to continue to explore this development of my painting skills, to dive into new challenges and new subject matters. And I'm so glad that you're along for the journey. As always, make sure that you follow, subscribe on YouTube and Instagram for the progress photos. But this is where we are today. It's a great little exercise. If I can get, that's the hard thing with these dark paintings. Can't quite get it with the glare of my light up above. They disappear. Whoop, there we are. There you go. So you can kind of see what we're going for, but I'm really happy with how the, let me just hold it to the side here. Maybe that, oh, there. The light, I really wanted to figure this out. And I think by toning this first and then doing everything around it, we're going to keep that. So it's going to have that feel that I want. And then the real brightening of the, I can't get the overhead light just right. Sorry, I'm looking off camera. Of the, maybe I can move you closer. Yeah. Of the red, that's what I think is going to be the focal point. So I'm really, really pleased with how this is turning out. And I think I just have to keep it all in balance and do more detail work. And then it's going to be a really nice little piece. I think this one I'm going to have to find the right frame to make it really look correct. But I think this is one I could do I could take prints of to do a holiday card. So I'm pleased with how that's turning out. And the first experience using a dark canvas. So that was fun as well. Great session. Thanks, Marta. It's so good to have you. I appreciate you popping in and all of your encouragement. Glad you fixed the angle on the one lantern. It was distracting. Yes, I think so as well. Merry Christmas to you, Henry. Hope you have a great one and a great new year as well. Thanks for popping in this evening. It's always great to see you. And thank you all, the silent lurkers out there. I appreciate each of you as well as those that engage. I will look forward to seeing you next Monday. Same bat times, same bat channel. Until then, have a great evening, and we will see you soon.